Hello there, YouTube. This is Charlie Barley coming at you from the West Coast, Las Vegas to be exact, and coming at you with a video talking about how the game of roulette changed my life and understanding of it. This video is going to be very real, very candid. I got some things I want to share with you, and because this game, it really has changed my life. And so, me selling systems or having a mentorship program, it's all coming from a place. And I'm going to share that place with you. We just had Father's Day just recently. And I'm going to share some really deep stuff with you guys because when I say it changed my life, like I've always been a person of purpose. I always believe that you have something to do while you're alive here on this earth, and sometimes that something to do is self-discovery. Most of us don't know who we are. We live and we die without a clue as to who we are and the power of who we are. And but I've always been a firm believer in the point of purpose, and I've always felt that I would reach people, but I never thought that I would have the kind of impact that I'm having. And I never thought that I would reach people around the world in a way that's bigger than a product or service. But let me just go and give you guys a little history as to who I am, and when I say the game of roulette changed my life, it has, and the understanding of it. But it all came through a lot of pain. It all came through a lot of hurt. And I was just speaking to a recent, and forgive me, guys, I have coffee and I have music playing. So this is one of those videos. So let me take a sip real quick. So I was speaking to maybe an upcoming student, and I have a lot of emails, and I have a lot of and I get a lot of calls like this, but this one kind of struck me. And the gentleman immediately began to speak about where he was in his life and what he wanted out of life, and what he had gone through and where he's at. And I'm looking at, and this is real, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. What I'm doing is real shit. And I'm using profanity maybe for the first time on this channel because I'm going to be honest with you. This is beyond me. This is something powerful, and not everyone catches on at the same rate and level. We all come from a certain place. And, I have students that are still being driven by fear and things of their past that is affecting their current life, and how we have to let go of fear, how we have to let go of a lot of things that are holding us back. If we're doing the same things over and over and getting the same results, but expecting something different, we're crazy. And the game of roulette helped me understand that to a degree. But let me tell you, so I was talking to the guy, he was telling me about a lot of his life experiences and the things he had experienced and the things that he went through, and how he wanted to leave a new legacy for his family. And I began to think about myself and how I got here. And it wasn't, I'm telling you, it wasn't a product or service that did it. It was a game of roulette. I am now seeing things in my life that was only a dream. But it was this game that changed my life and the way that I understood life. When the gentleman was talking to me, I was having flashbacks at how I came here, and he was asking for for me to help him. And I don't have a whole lot of students that follow me exactly to the T, but those that do are seeing incredible results. And I understand something. When you've been hurt, man, when you've been beat up in life, your heart wants to trust. You want the best outcome, you know, but you don't let go. When my niece died, she died at 12 years old, and it was just a little over a year now. And her father was a SOB. And she didn't really have a strong male figure in her life. Neither does her other siblings. And so to a degree, I try and be that, even though I'm long distance. But she taught me a lesson in her death about letting go. I spoke at her funeral, and one of the analogies I used about letting go was riding on a roller coaster at an amusement park, and how in life we all will take a ride. We're all going to be on some type of ride. We're going to have that term, the ride of your life, right? We're all going to take a ride. And in this ride of life, there's all type of rides. There are kids' rides. There are roller coasters, for those who like to take extremities in life, take big risk. And then there's rides that are very slow. There's rides that don't even get 2 feet off the ground. A lot of people take rides like that. They take slow rides that don't require much. But regardless of whatever ride we take in this life, one thing is for sure. The ride comes to an end. Everyone is going to die. Okay? And in knowing that a ride is going to come to an end, you're going to lose loved ones. We all are dying. Okay? So what makes us get up in the morning knowing that we're going to die? The moment that you're born, you have a death sentence. So what makes you get up to go to this amusement park called life and ride this ride that you know is coming to an end? I was at Cedar Point, which is in Sandusky, Ohio, and I was riding at the time. I think it was the tallest roller coaster in the world. It was the Millennium Force, 306 feet off the ground. The only thing it had was a lap bar. It didn't even have a shoulder harness. And I was with my uncle, and we got to the top of the hill, which is 306 feet tall. No shoulder harness, only a lap bar. And I told him, I said, well, now when we get to the top of this, we're going to fall. We're going to take a long fall. But what I want you to do, and this is a lesson that I learned from amusement park, but I spoke at the funeral. This is the exact same thing I was speaking at the funeral. That roulette, the game, now that I understood this, how it's helped me live a life of an abundance, and it came through roulette, and we're going to talk about that. So whether you play this game for fun, I'm telling you, when you understand what's happening, if you understand anything I'm talking about, it's life-changing. So anyway, I'm at the top of the roller coaster, me and my uncle, and I told him, I said, now listen, we're going to take a fall, as you know. But what I want you to do is, instead of holding on, I want you to let go. I want you to lift your hands and take the fall like freely. And we were at the top of this hill, and we took the fall. And of course, right before we fell, before we went down rather, he was scared out of his life. And so I grabbed his hand and I said, "You're gonna do it." And, because there's sometimes in life there's people who will help you in the journey of life, in the quote unquote what you think is going to be a fall, your fears, if you just decide to let go. So he had to decide to completely let go and trust that the manufacturer, the person who created the ride, knew that you were going to take that fall and gave you a shoulder harness so you didn't have to hold on to anything. You really could just let go and enjoy the ride instead of riding the ride with fear. Because in riding the ride with fear, it's not the same ride when you're riding freely. So when he decided to let go, we both went down that 306-foot drop. But don't you know, we end up coming back up. And of course, the ride ended. At the end of the ride, I asked him a question. I said, "How did it feel?" He said, "Man, I didn't feel anything." I said, "Wait a minute. You just fell 306 feet. You went up and down and you were twisted. You had your hands up the whole time, actually. And I was sitting there watching you. And you're telling me you didn't feel anything?" He said, "Yeah." He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, "That's the power of letting go." He says, "When I decided to just completely let go," he says, it's just like free falling. You don't feel anything. You just flow. And then the ride turns from a thrill, something that's meant to scare you, into something that's meant to make you happy. But you have to decide to let go. And in this ride of life, we're all coming to an end. But how are you going to ride it is the question. We are all bound by our experiences in life, whether it's through a death of someone or whether it's through, for me, it was a myriad of different things. It was a lot of hurt with family members, close family members. My father particularly. A lot of hurtful things happened to me. And I was holding on to a lot of this hurt. At 12 years old, my father had almost killed me in an accident. He was drinking and he was driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And I remember driving, I was on the passenger seat and I was looking over and I saw that he was doing about 55 miles an hour. And I looked ahead and I saw that the traffic was dead still and he wasn't pumping his brakes at all. Needless to say, I didn't have a seatbelt on. And when we smashed the back of a car, the impact was so heavy that I broke the windshield with my head. Okay. Long story short, he didn't go to jail for it. He ended up getting away with it. And unfortunately for him, he's suffering right now because he got away with a lot of things he shouldn't have got away with. The lessons were not learned. Whatever he was holding on to came back to bite him later on. But nonetheless, a week after that, I was about 12 years old, I think. I remember going to him and I was crying and I was asking him to stop drinking because you had almost killed me. And at the time he was watching TV. And when he was watching TV and I was pleading to him to stop this behavior, he turned the TV up. And that moment for me became almost like an abused spouse, where she gets beat or most of the time it's a female, but when the spouse is abused, they tend to stay in the abuse because they're searching for the affection of the abuser. They've turned the abuse inwardly, and they think that it's them that's causing the pain, and it's not. And what happened to me for about 40 years of my life, I held on, I can say 40 years, maybe about, I don't know, 38 years, 37, give or take. But for a long time, I held on to the idea of pleasing someone else. I was holding on to the rejection of someone who you should look to or to be consoled by. And, that person didn't explain a lot of principles that I actually learned playing the game of roulette. And that's the reason I say it changed my life. And I'm going to get in that to a moment. But leading up to it, so holding on to that hurt, and then years later coming to find out the same person made me feel as if I wasn't the person I have always thought I was. And I've had a lot of success in my life, and but I was always searching for this affection. I was holding on to the need to be wanted, or the need to be appreciated by someone you should look up to, only to find out that person, for whatever reason, didn't feel the same way for me. And another incident that happened, of which they were, I don't know, for whatever reason, he said that I wasn't this, that, or the other. At the time when I was building my company, I had a lot of success in corporate. I got laid off when I was in corporate. I started my own company. I haven't been back to work in over 15 years, and I got laid off about 15 years ago. So I hadn't worked in 15 years, but it wasn't always easy, and I had to seek help, and I thought I would get it from my family, and it actually was the wrong place. So all of these things were compounding on me. And at the same time, I knew that there was something greater, and I had to seek it and find it for myself. I actually just wanted to be free. And because I would work business, I would do whatever it was, and nothing ever panned out. I was searching for all this affection and all these things and whatever, and nothing ever gave me freedom. Not loved ones, not business, not money. And when my niece died, it was kind of right at a point where I really began to see what was happening with me while I was learning this game of roulette. Because when I decided, like on that roller coaster experience, to let go of the past and to let go of the thinking and the way I felt about life and the things I thought, to let go of these things and reimagine life totally free with money and time. Because everything that I knew about this life, to me, was kind of a lie. Getting up in the morning, going to work every day, and retiring, and then dying is not living. I saw the effects of that in my own household. My dad worked 40 to 60 hours a week. He had no time for his family, to the extent that the most time that he had was with maybe his friends and alcohol. But he certainly had no time to enjoy life or to reimagine himself, or rethink some of his decisions, because he had no time to do that. The only thing he did was work, which is literally slavery, because he didn't want to work where he worked. He ended up getting hurt really bad at his job on top of that. But that was his life. That was my mom's life. That was, at one point, my life, and many of your lives. You wake up doing something you don't want to do because you're still holding on to what the world says is impossible. The world says you can't do this. And there are all kind of critics and everyone saying what you can't do. But I'm a living witness. It's very possible. Not only is it possible, but it's being proven. And I had to let go of fear, doubt, and in the words of Morpheus, disbelief, to believe something like roulette was possible. Because it is possible. I have had the life of a dream because of this game. And right now, I have students. Get this, people. I wish I could show you guys the text. He's on his 45th day of winning, of which he's only lost 4 days. The makeup for 4 days is only, I think, 16 games. To make up a loss of 4 days is 16 days or games. So technically, Sean is up a little over 20 days total wins. What's significant about that, it doesn't matter his minimum bet. When you have the ability to go 45 days and be up that many, you are literally in control of the game. And this can be proven. The reason why it's changed my life is because I've done a lot of different things. Never did I have the freedom, the time, or the patience to really reflect on where I was going and who I was. And this game gave it to me. 45 seconds can change my life now. And it's changing other people's lives. And all of the hurt and despair and the things that I experienced in life. I was once homeless, by the way. I lived out of my car. It was that bad. There was one time I was staying, it was a Motel 6. It should have been a Motel 1 because it wasn't even worth 6. And you couldn't even, it was so bad, folks, that the door wouldn't even close. Like the door to get in it, it was an outside door, but it wouldn't even close. I think I was paying maybe $20 or $19 a night to stay there. And but the only thing at that time when I was trying to build my company, here, I want me to take a sip of this cold coffee now, 1 second. At the time I was building my company, or at least trying to, I was destitute and broke. And unfortunately, I felt that there was no one to call. There was no help for me. And so I just bared the pain. And I found myself living out of my car and in some of these strange places. When I was at the Motel 6, I got literally eaten up by bugs. The next day, I woke up. Not even the next day, because I ended up leaving there that night because it was so bad. But the next morning, when I looked up, I was in my car, by the way, when I got up, and there were welts all over my body. There were times where anxiety attacks were so bad that I thought I was going to die in some of these hotel rooms I were in. I remember rushing myself to the hospital one time, and I was at the red light thinking I was going to die in the car, and I opened up the car door to jump out in hopes that someone would catch me because I thought I was going to die right there. And when I got but I ended up finding the strength to drive myself to the hospital. And long story short, the doctor asked what I did for a living. At the time, I was building a tech company. And he told me, listen, physically you're fine, but mentally you're not. You're going to have to learn to relax. let me tell you guys something. And this is real for me. Every day of my life for the last 2 years, I will wake up when I want to. And then I'll go to sleep when I want to. The anxiety of knowing or thinking about how I will ever make money is gone. And the reason it's gone is because I understand what this game is doing. It's a limited variable system. The game of life has way too many variables that can F you up, screw you up. I escaped it. And I escaped it through this game. I was led into it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that I set sail to do. I never was a gambler. I never even went to Vegas. Like, it was something that just hit me, but my heart and my mind just wanted to be free. And I was at a point where I was willing to hear anything because I had been there and I've done everything at this point. When my niece died, it really enforced my whole concept of letting go, because I had to let go of the idea that something like this was impossible. When I saw that money was being traded every 45 seconds and people were winning often, I said, well, the only thing you have to figure out is how to win consistently. So that's where I began to break down the game. And now when I broke down the game, I have students in 45 days. He only needs to win one time to be a millionaire, but he's over 20 times that amount in 45 days. There is no end to his money. There's no end to mine. And it was because of this game. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't business. I've had businesses. I've done a lot of stuff, but this game has changed my life. And whether you do mentorship with me or buy any strategies, whatever you do, I'm letting you know firsthand. This game has the answer. You know, it's so unfortunate that how financial freedom is marketed to us. You got to understand. And when I was working at the bank, when I got the big picture of how big of a grip the banks had on the world, everything is transacted by a dollar bill. That dollar bill is all Federal Reserved, which means it's owned and controlled by who? The banks. Marketing, everything you see and know is all a part of the banking empire. Get, know, and understand that. All the way down to religion, to education, everything flows through a financial system. Okay? These financial systems are nothing but numbers. This is how the stock market was created. Everything has a number attached to it. It's a financial game. And the way that they spin it is through what we call marketing. They use education systems and marketing systems to keep us in the game. The game for the bankers is to keep you in business and employed. Because if you're employed, you're going to work for the corporations, which are owned and sponsored and partnered by the banks. 10% of all big business are 10% of all businesses are big corporations, let's say, which are in, like I said, in part and or sponsored by the bank. Well, they have to be sponsored by the banks, but the banks look for this because the banks need big corporations to move product services to the masses. Those masses need to work for them to keep the economy going. So they can't market the concept of financial freedom through roulette, because if you truly understood that, you wouldn't work. And if you don't work, the bigger game might be over if you truly become financially free. So what they do is they market the concept of financial freedom through education. Go get a good job, get financially free. And you might get financially free, but what does it mean if you're in jail? If you're at work every day? It's not financial freedom, that's bondage. But you've been educated to see the money and not the life. So the only thing you see is the money. And these same ideologies transcend into how people even play the game of roulette today. They're only looking at the money and not the quote unquote game, the financial game. Okay, so the bank says, well, if people can stay employed, if we can keep them there, or starting a business, starting a small business. The concept is taxation and to take away your time to keep this economy going so that the bankers always win. Always. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, I think they should, considering it's capitalism, they should win. But that doesn't mean you have to be one of the slaves or employees of that part of the game. Because everything is about risk and reward. The question then, in the financial game, the question becomes, what risk and reward, what risk do you take for the reward that you get? If you go by the marketing that the banks put out in education systems, you would go get a job or you would go start a business. Because either all of those are going to keep your risk, your liabilities high, and your risk is going to be very high by the numbers. The 10% of businesses that make it, they end up becoming large corporations after 10 years. And that's a good thing for capitalism. Most people being in debt and in bondage to business and working for a living, that's also good for capitalism. The winners are the banks. But what they did was they didn't understand quite well that all things work the same way. They're just different perspectives. So the way that money works in our world is through a series of change, like interchange, right? So you exchange your gifts and talent for a dollar or whatever the case may be. And the same thing that works in the stock market or the game of roulette. Every 45 seconds, you have the abilities to choose a number or a bet. And based upon the outcome, you win or you lose. Okay. Now, to be a good winner, the more you understand the game, the better bet you can make. Right? So the same thing with life. The more you understand about the game of life, the better choices you're going to make. But when you're holding on to fear of your past, to hurt of your past, to the way that the world has taught you to think that has you exactly where you are, you and 99% of us, you have to change. And you have to see it for what it is. This world is all about risk and reward. Financial freedom is in your abilities to be free financially. But that freedom is not just through money, it's through time. That's what they don't tell you. So how do you delineate time? You got to get in the apparatus where you can change your money very, very quickly. Roulette allows you to do that in 45 seconds. Now, you might be able to exchange money in business in every 45 seconds, but the cost and the liabilities are so high and so expensive that within 4 years, you stand a 70% chance of failing. In 10 years, you stand a 90% chance of failing. So not only in that game are the odds against you, but time is against you. And the reason that is because the evolution of technology. It will outperform you. So if you have these type of variables that you've got to calculate in terms of risking whether or not you're going to go into business, Some people it's even better just to have a job. It really is. I mean, a good job to me, a really, really good job is probably better than an okay business, even though you quote unquote work for yourself. But the ultimate way to financial freedom is getting down to the numbers. So when you understand these risk factors, these percentages, then you say, well, if it happens in 10 years or 4 years that I have this chance of losing, if it's all about money and products and services, then it's all calculation. How do I get rid of the risk? And how do I decrease the time? The game of roulette gives us that. We're able to make decisions every 45 seconds. How do you delineate the risk? There's no inside traders. There's no person who's not going to buy your product because of a race or color or fat or whatever the case may be. It's not that. So how could it be stopped? Well, you know that the game doesn't always stay the same. So then now you know if it doesn't always stay the same, the only difference between you and getting rich is having patience. I'm a living witness to it. It's not going to go red forever. So if you just had patience and you understood the numbers, there's nothing stopping you from having the abundant life you ever dreamt about. Because I can tell you this, whatever method that you're calculating your time and life right now and the risk associated with it at the level of your payback, right now, the average time my students are spending trading money at the rate that they're trading when they're doing it properly. And I'm gonna have Sean do another interview because I want you guys to hear this. When I'm talking about how it changed my life, people. It's not about money. I'm not even saying how much money it's making. I'm talking about how much time it's giving me, how much time it's giving my students. There is no financial cap. We now know this. And the only thing we have to do is have just small patience. And we can enjoy the rest of our lives. I'm a living witness to it. Most people get in their own way because you're holding on to something. You're holding on to the past failures. You're holding on to past ways of thinking. When you do decide to join the program, you're going to have to declutter what you used to think about everything. You can't come with the same mentality that you've had that made you a loser. I had to let go myself. I get it. Keeping that same mentality is going to keep you right where you are. All right. I'm not talking about anything. This is something I'm living. I live this. I absolutely live it. So I had to understand the number. I had to understand the game that was being played. And what's so funny is that we found the answer at a casino. Reason we found the answer at the casino is because it gives us the shortest amount of time to make a trade with our time and money. And it also gives us the smallest amount of variables to calculate to make the best possible trade with our time and money. Because if I started a business, I can't match 92% in 45 days. Not without having a ton of debt after and a ton of liability. If I then went and took my life and gave it to a corporation, then they become my master. They own my world. That's my life. And then maybe I raise children and I don't give them the time that they need to be better than myself. Because I don't have the time. I don't have time for my wife or family. I'm a slave to the game. In roulette, is what took me out of it. So I just wanted to say that, guys. I know this was long, but I was just sitting here. For those who know, I have literally moved to the heart of Vegas, and I stay in one of the towers out here. And every morning, I'm able to look out over the mountains and see this place. And my mind often reflects back to when it was just a vision. It was just an idea that, wow, this really is possible. And one day I'm going to do it. And I can't, the day is here. Like, I'm literally doing this. It's absolutely insane. It's beautiful. And I can't say that everyone gets it the same way. I wish that was the case. But I know why. It's the same reason why the same person who rides a thrill ride, you got one person who's enjoying it and another person who's vomiting. Same ride, two different results. One decided to let go, another one decided to hold on. And then they got sick. And the ride was not enjoyable. So, look, guys, you got to learn to let go, man. Learn to let go of all your inhibitions. Reimagine life. Reimagine yourself. As crazy as it sounds, the answer is right here in the game of roulette. Whether you take lessons from me or you continue to study on your own, I'm telling you, it's here. There's nothing else that I know of, and I'm not some idiot. I'm not some idiot, folks. I'm not a dummy. And, I managed to make it to a regional compliance director for the third largest bank in the world. I had 150 employees without a college degree. It's only because I was able to think my way there. So I'm nobody's fool. And when I tell you what I'm telling you, it's only because I've seen it and I've studied it firsthand, and I have living live examples of it. So it's absolutely possible. So whether you're doing it with me or you're doing it by yourself, it's here. Don't give up. And I mean it, man. Don't give up on it. I have a lot of emails and I got a lot of people who are seeing the light, within the program and outside of it. Don't give up on it. Don't listen to people who are going to tell the very people who are saying, who are the naysayers. I swear to God, if you looked at their lives, they probably hate their lives. I'm telling you, 99.99%, these people are miserable. And they don't have a clue how to calculate the percentages of where they're going. They have no purpose. They have no reason for being. They're simply looking for cash. And that's not the way to go. When you become free in your mind, everything's going to follow after that. But you've got to know what it is that you truly desire. I didn't desire to be some roulette champion and make a bunch of money. I could have done that with my magazine company. I wanted freedom. And it came through a game. And I'm here to tell you that life is a game. I just found out the game of roulette has less variables and it moves a lot quicker than any other part of the game that I'm going to make money with. With that said, folks, guys, thank you so much for listening. Like I said, it's just amazing times for me. And, I appreciate all the ups and downs. And hopefully this inspires you to live your best life. I really do hope that you take what I'm saying serious. I don't know. Listen, and I'll say this last thing. Whatever your purpose is in life, that's what it is. It may not be here, but you need to discover what that is. I do know that money is a component of life that we all need. This game can help you fulfill your purpose. You don't have to be a professional. That's not how you should. That shouldn't be on your tombstone. The impact that the gifts that God gave you should be what should be on your tombstone. I'm just going to be here to help you, maybe help you finance it. Because that's exactly what capitalism is all about. We've just figured out the variables. That's it. Okay, guys? All right, listen, folks. Man, thank y'all so much for listening and listening and allowing me to bear my heart on my sleeve a little bit. And I just thought it was important that you guys hear it, really. I mean, really hear it the way I feel it, because I'm so grateful, man. I'm like I said, I'm sitting out on the patio. It was about 3:30 this morning, maybe 4. I went and got some coffee and just sat out there and just started to reflect on things. Like I said, I had an interview with a potential student, and it just really made me rethink things and really think about where I've come from. Wanted to share it with you guys. Again, if you're interested in anything that I've got going, you can email me permutationspro@gmail.com. You could also go to permutations.com on the website. There's an 800 number there if you'd like to talk to me about anything. That's also cool. What else? Thank you guys so much for listening. I got more videos coming, a lot more videos. It's just that I've been in the middle of still kind of getting acclimated to the whole process of moving and different things like that, and trying to make the program that I'm, the mentorship program even better. And also using very smart and wise tactics while I grow it. So I know that it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's also necessary. So guys, thank you so much again, and until the next time, take care of yourself.